Can you guys see us now? We had some technical difficulties.
Yeah,
to swap to a new computer here.
I don't know why we're having trouble with that.
I don't know why that computer. Every time we use this computer,
I don't know why. It's a perfectly reasonable computer.
It is perfectly fine too.
We did it once already and it worked. Are you out there?
Let's hope somebody's out there.
Here, you have my computer.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna look. I'll go to Facebook.
Okay. Can I?
Yeah, just like that. You can plug that into yours if you want.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can do that. I'm gonna do that. Now we got two.
Can you see us? Tell us whether or not you can see us.
If you're here with us, let us know. We were having some technical difficulties. Britt Chapman, thank you for liking. Just let us know if you can see and hear everything perfectly fine. We were having technical difficulties, it looks like, up before. If you're with us now and you were having a hard time getting us before, please write something. Let us know that this is better or working, or if it's not, please let us know. Let me grab my charger real quick.
Okay. See, I remember seeing the lights going by. Can you hear it? Let's see, what does that say? Get closer. Good old eyes. Here, neurotic. Okay, hey, can you see us? Can you hear us? Everything looks good now. Okay. Everything's looking good, Jarrett.
All right, how many people we got? We got a whole bunch more people? We only had one or so people with us before.
Like 9 or something.
Let us know if you can't see the video from earlier. We left it posted.
Because we answered some questions on it. So we're going to leave it there because we answered 2 or 3 questions.
Yeah, we answered 2 or 3 questions at this point.
Before we realized that you weren't seeing it.
Yeah, so we'll leave it up. Lots of, I'm assuming Linda,
look
emojis.
Look at where it went. It looks like it posted it on Ron.
Oh, Ron Tanner, not Family History Ron.
No.
Okay. Well, that seemed like a simple mistake on our end.
Yeah, we posted it on my personal page, not on Family
He
History.
accidentally pulled up his personal page instead of. So we'll move it over to the other page later.
Yeah.
But for now, we'll hop back into where we're at. Sorry, I just got to plug in my laptop so it won't die on us. And swap to my auxiliary here and pull out my phone. Okay, all right.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, geez, man.
You'd think a computer science guy would know how to do things.
You would think.
It's this internet thing. I don't know.
Yeah, this internet thing is a newfangled thing. You can't. Yeah. I don't know. Can you handle the internet?
Should I be seeing it here? Okay, it's there. It's working. Got 14 people.
Yeah, that looks a lot better. I was concerned. We seemed like we had dwindled numbers, and I thought to myself, "There's more people than this." I thought, are we just not that popular anymore?
Yeah. So the question we are answering is, how do I know? I think the question was, how do I know who I could do ordinances for in the tree? So here's the first example. Okay, if this is you, and you walk up your line, I don't care whether it's your mother, your father's, it doesn't matter. You can do your spouses too. You go up that line, and you get to this person. This is the person you want to do ordinance for. If there's a direct line between you and that person, you're good to go. You're good to go. Okay, that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 says you can do that if that's rule. Let me give you another example.
Shall I reread the question since nobody here knows the question?
Okay, read the question.
We're just going hog wild here. I mean, we're just in the middle of it, so we just didn't want to lose it. So the question was from Kathy. She said, please explain how we do or do not do temple work for spouses, parents, etc. And she wanted some visual examples. So these visual examples are in regards to how we do or do not do.
I'm interpreting that to mean who can I do temple work for because I'm related. So the policy basically says this. If it's a direct line ancestor, remember I said if that person is a person who needs ordinances, you're good to go because it's a direct line up. Back. I said with back in time. Now, also, let's say this is the person that you want to do ordinances for, that's perfectly good to do ordinance for this person because you have a common ancestor. So if you look at you and you look at the person you want to do and you go up their line and you go up your line and you hit the same common ancestor, you're good to go. Okay? Now, the rule says you can also do descendants you can do ascendants and descendants. So you can do this one. And so let's say here's a spouse and he has 4 kids. So you can do this person. You can do the children. You can do this spouse right here. Okay, and you can do that whole family because you want to do that family. And you can do any descendants. So you can, if this one's married here, then you can do their kids. Let's say they got kids. You can do them, and you can do their kids all the way down, doing whole families as you descend down. So that's where a lot of people are, because each of them have 4 or 5 kids or 6 kids, and each of their kids have 5 or 6 kids. So you get a lot of people when you do descendancy research. That's what this is. And you're free to do all of those. Those are okay to do policy-wise, because they're considered your relatives or descendants of your relatives, and that's okay. Now, what you can't do, this is a no-no. You can't go up this line. So this line has a mother and a father, right? And then they have lines like that from this spouse. Okay? You cannot do, you can't go up the line.
Yeah.
Because this is not none of these hit a direct common ancestor of yours. So if you go up, you go down, and then you do the spouse, and you go up, now you're no longer related if you go up that line, okay? And by the way, I should point out that Noah and Adam don't count as a common ancestor.
Oh, really?
Unless you have certified documentation that you've researched that line all the way back to Noah or Adam.
Are there people with that? Are there people with documentation for that?
No.
Okay.
There aren't any. But there's people who have looked at speculation and all that kind of stuff. They try to hurry and hook themselves to the Bible. The reason why that's an issue is because back in the old days, way long ago, you couldn't have land unless you were a lord or whatever.
Yeah.
And so everybody wanted to be related to the Lord, so they make up genealogies in order to get land. But anyway, let me finish here. So you want to do this whole family and get all their ordinances done. So how do you do a sealing to parent for this spouse to these parents? And the answer is you are allowed to do it. But that's the only time that you're allowed to do an ordinance out of order. You can do a sealing of parents from this person to these parents without doing any ordinances for the parent. You're not allowed to do the ordinances for those parents because you're not related to those parents. Because they're not direct descendant, ascendant. They're not an ancestor of yours, and they're not a descendant of an ancestor of yours, okay? So you can't do these parents, but you're allowed to do the sealing to parent from that spouse to those parents. That sealing to parent is not effective until these parents' works are done.
Yeah.
But that'll be done by some other family who is a direct descendant of these people, okay?
Yeah.
All right, now I think that's the questions, and I think that answers all the cases. Yeah. So remember, 1, direct line back is good. Descendant is good. You can do all of those down, but you can't go up, down, and then back up again off another line, off a spouse's line. That's a no-no. Okay. Perfect. So I think that answers the question. Perfect. You can do adoptive lines. You can do. You're obviously you're okay to do your spouse line because they're your spouse. And hey, can I do your line? Yeah. Okay. Sure. Okay. So then you go do their line. And foster and adoptive. You can do foster lines, adoptive lines, and blood lines. Okay. For more information, you can go to help, get help at the top, and in the question thing, type what ordinances can I reserve? If you type something like that, what ordinances can I reserve? Then it'll send you an article that tells you all these rules, but it'll list it out as rules. I'm doing visualization because I think it's very easy to understand. When you put all the rules together, it's just ascendant, descendant, and the families.
Yeah, it's just easy.
Common ancestor, and then do families.
So I noticed there's some comments I wanted to mention. Just to recap, thank you for joining us a little late here. What would happen?
We didn't think we were late.
Yeah, we didn't think we were. We thought we were right on the money. But what had happened is my lovely father here, in his infinite wisdom, accidentally began the live video on his own personal page.
Yeah.
So we will actually probably download that and re-upload it. And this live will be as a 2-part live. You can watch the first part probably later tonight. Maybe in the next few days it'll pop up.
Yeah. We answered some questions in that one.
We did.
And then when we realized it wasn't working, we stopped. Now we're doing this.
Yes. And it's also important to note that we may end this one a little bit early. His mother recently fell and is in the hospital. And so she's recovering from some things. We haven't visited her in a few days. And we promised her we would go visit her because family's important to us, obviously.
Yeah. So we'll probably shut off, and we've been going a half hour, probably only going another 15 or so minutes.
Yeah.
So we can get down to the hospital before she starts falling asleep.
Absolutely. So,
all right, what's the next question?
Well, just actually before we go too much further, there is another question, but there is one related to this. David M. Newland, who just commented on the video here, he said, okie dokie. What about the older rule about the same surname in the same geographical area?
Okay, let me talk about that one. I usually don't discuss that one because people abuse that rule. I call it the loophole rule. And that rule is, let me tell you the intent of that rule so you can understand why it's there. That rule says that if there's a small town area, the intent was if you go to some place in England or some of these countries that have little towns, multi-generational family all live in the same town. So all of the Joneses or Johannesburgs, they're all related, most likely, and they all have the same name. They're all related in some way, and you can't quite figure out all the relationships. There is an allowance to allow you to do all of those people in that town that have the same last names, right?
Yeah.
But what I don't want to hear happening is that somebody says, hey, I'm going to do all the Tanners in Salt Lake City, or all the Tanners in Chicago, or I'm going to do all the Browns in New York City. That's not what the intent of this was. They're probably not related to you. So these are intended for areas of the world where there's towns where everybody is related, and that's where they settled, and they just all had kids, and they married, and people married and came back. And they're all sort of
lots of intergenerational.
So that rule's there too, and that's acceptable as well.
So and I imagine that might be subject to review at the same time.
Well, we trust you to do what's right.
Yes, that's always good. Okay. So, Buddha Chris asked, is there any plan to implement a timeline on the person's profile with all events? This is something that's popped up before. We've discussed the timeline, the possibility of doing it.
We want to do that. We currently don't have a plan to do it. In our other video that we did just a minute ago that we post, somebody asked about doing indexing and stuff on sources.
Well, it was correction of indexing and then adding his own sources and how to do that to multiple people.
Right. So we need to get that data on the source, and we can get it if it's a family search index. If it's a personal source, then we're working on a development to allow you to enter in the data, instead of just in notes, but actually add a name, a birth, a death in the source. Once we have that, then that will allow us to display that in a timeline, right? A timeline requires data from the thing you want to put on the timeline, like the date and place of pictures. That's why we ask for that in memories. We're not really asking that for sources. We have it for index sources. We don't have it for other kinds of sources. So we want to start working on that and then work on a timeline. We've got a couple of things we really need to take care of right now.
So hold on.
That's going to take us to the next while.
The timeline is in the pipeline.
Well, yeah, I guess. It's on the list, something we want to do, but we got a bunch of work we have to get taken care of for other reasons. And that's a UI nice thing to have, and it really can be very valuable to analyze data. We realize that. And our desire is to get to it. We don't have a time frame. Okay, sorry. What's next?
Perfect.
Just try to get as many as we can.
Just real quickly, Carl Greenwood mentioned the 110-year-old. How does that play into the descendancy research, 110-year rule?
Okay, so let me explain the 110-year rule. When you go down to descendancy, you can go as far as you want, but eventually you're going to hit the 110-year rule. The 110-year rule says if a person has not been dead for 110 years, and by the way, I'm still looking into it. I don't think it calculates it exactly on the date of the birthday. It might be the next year you have to wait for it.
Yeah.
But if it's been dead, if they've been dead for over 110 years, if they were born
that's what it is.
Less than 110 years ago, and they're dead, because you can't do ordinances for living.
Yeah.
So they're dead people, but they have been born less than 110 years ago. Mm-hmm. Then the rule is you can only do them if you are an immediate relative. That meaning you're a parent, a spouse, or a sibling, and we do allow grandchildren to do that. If you're not one of those people, then you have to request permission to do those ordinances, and you need to provide evidence about either all of those close relatives are dead. You can show. You say, well, here's all the PIDs of all the brothers and sisters and the children and the parents, and they're all deceased. Or you have to explain that you have permission from a closest living relative of that person, that they have given you permission to do their ordinances.
Okay.
And it doesn't take very long. You fill out the form when you click the button, and a person reviews it. It's not done by a machine. They look at it, see if the relationships look appropriate, see if you have the appropriate materials that you've been asked for. So make sure you fill it all in. Don't just enter because I want to and send it off, because it'll just be sent back to you. So fill it all in, and then you'll either receive that permission, and it'll show up on your reservation list. I think they reserve it for you, or they'll tell you they need more information, or that it's not available to you.
Okay.
And the 110-year rule, some people may say, why do we have the 110-year rule? They're dead, they need to have their ordinances done. The reason we do this is because a family oftentimes will come into the tree new to family history. They'll enter in their line, and they'll hit one of these ancestors, and it's a parent or it's a grandparent, somebody they personally knew, and then they're really torn in their heart because they love their grandmother and they want to do their grandmother's work in the temple, and somebody's already done it. And the person that did it was somebody they have no idea who it was, because they came from some collateral line. Like, so they're a third cousin, 4 times removed. They never met him or heard of him, and so they feel really upset that they didn't have a chance to do their mother or father or grandparents. So to prevent that from happening and have that kind of experience and upsettedness by those family, we enforce the rule now. Excuse me, dry throat, I gotta get a drink.
Get a drink.
All right, ready for the next one.
All right, I'm trying to get it all here.
Fortunately, when I start coughing, then I start to keep going.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just trying to...
He's trying to read it on his phone. I told him I could do the computer.
I'm trying to resize a column, and that's kind of giving me a hard time here. So it says, I've seen some ordinance reserved by others, but shared with the temple on lines, but are not yet printed. Is there any... I think she says, is there a chance in the future to claim an ordinance and do it if the temple's being slow about printing it?
Well, first off, when someone shares to the temple, it's not the temple printing. It's just essentially they come a first come, first serve per temple district. And if there's a lot of people in that temple district who do genealogy and they submit it to the temple, then it just has a longer line to wait in. I agree that oftentimes it's too much. And if you're an ancestor, you're walking your tree and you find somebody and you're willing to take them right away, oftentimes what works well is you send a message, if either through their email that they expose or through the internal messaging system, and ask them, say, hey, I'm related, this is how I'm related to this person, and would you please let me have those ordinances? And most people are very willing to release the ordinances or share them to you so that you can go do them. So try that first. But yes, we're in the process of proposing some changes. And one of the things we would like to offer, and you can let me know if this is something you want as well, as we're working to allow, if we get approval, to allow you to take it off the temple list and put it on your list.
Okay.
We actually want to have multiple lists. We also want to do family reservation lists where you can share with your family, ward, stake, and then temple, and then you can take it off the temple list. But remember, if we allow you to take things off the temple list, you're going to have a short time to do it, because the person who originally submitted it has an expectation when it gets taken that it doesn't take forever. So it will probably be a time limit that you have to get it done, otherwise it will go back on the temple list in the same place it was before, so it doesn't lose its place in line. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
There's been a lot of questions on the right here. What do you
Yeah, but they could be, if they're not about the thing we're talking about, we'll just have them next time.
Okay. Just some of your questions you're asking in the comments here, we do see you, but due to time constraint, we're going to try and get those collected, and we'll probably answer them next time.
Yeah.
Just some questions about like the 110-year rule.
Well, we talked about 110.
Barbara Payne, who we've worked with before, she's mentioned, does the permission for the 110-year rule need to be writing? in writing? Yes or no?
Right now, we don't ask you to upload any documentation. We just ask you to give us the name and the contact information of the person, and we don't necessarily call them right there. The only time we need that information is if sometime later somebody says, "Hey, I didn't give permission," then, or "Why did you let that person do it?" Then we can contact and make sure that things were okay.
So I think a safe bet is always to get it.
What I recommend, though, if you want to make sure that you're doing everything properly, is just have them write on a piece of paper, I so-and-so give permission for so-and-so to do ordinances for this person, and sign it, and you just keep it. Just put it in a file somewhere, and you keep it in case there's ever a question. You can produce that if you're worried about it. Okay. Was there another one, Hunter?
There's been several here.
Okay, what do you got? You're supposed to have good eyes.
Yeah, natural Norman just mentioned, how do I keep someone from changing data that I've sourced and have a personal review with my grandfather about on FamilySearch? I think the answer to that one is...
We'll answer that in no time.
Yeah, but the short answer is, Norman, at least from my experience, is that when you put data onto someone's personal page, the whole point of Family Tree is open source, so that everybody can have an opportunity to change it. But if you're sourcing the data yourself from your own page, meaning you have your source box, and it's in your source box, the actual data of the source shouldn't be changed. But generally, people's data on an individual page.
We'll answer this one later. This is more than you think it is.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. She's interested in knowing if she's connected to the biggest tree in the world.
Currently, if you're in the United States and if you have genealogy that's in the United States or England, those kind of areas, you're probably connected. We don't necessarily expose that or show that, but the largest tree the last time I looked, the largest tree we have is 384 million people in the tree. Yeah. And but that's been a little while. We were running about 50 million added to it a month, or every 3 to 4 months. So.
Yeah, she mentioned, you said something about 394. She said she thinks it'd be motivational, fun to maybe have something on the page for somebody to see that.
Yeah, we don't keep track of that sort of on the fly. We kind of run an analysis to figure out the biggest tree, and so it's not something I'll have to think about it. It's probably something we could do. We just haven't done it. We just haven't done it automatically. Okay, so let's just do one more.
And it'll last another 8 minutes. Okay. So unfortunately, this is going to be our last question for the night.
Sorry about that.
It's just
I'd stay longer, but I need to take care of going visiting my mom.
So it says, do you know if the old LDS church membership record books on microfilm have been or will be digitized? If so, will they be made available, even if restricted to members or family history libraries?
I don't believe that that's the case currently.
They haven't been digitized, or have they been digitized? That's the first question.
Well, that's not really the important question.
Okay, so the
important question is are they going to be available for people to look at?
I think that's the point. Did they get digitized so that I can see them?
Yeah. Actually, I'll send myself a note about that one.
Okay.
I do know that the only place you can see those sort of things, it's considered special collections. You have to go to Salt Lake and you have to show them some identification, and they let you go in a room and look at it. It's on microfilm, but it's an interesting question to see if that's ever something we'd ever be able to see online. Will we ever have membership records, is what you said. No, this is what I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you this. This is in my plan.
The master plan.
Yeah. Will we ever have old membership film, microfilm? Well,
while he writes this out, I just again want to say that we did actually start on time at 7:30. Just to recap, we did post that video on the wrong page. So we will be downloading it and re-uploading it sometime, hopefully tonight or within the next few days.
Yeah. So my intent, and I don't have any date or anything, but I've got permission. My intent is that sometime in the future we will show membership record information in the tree. Now, it won't be complete membership records. Well, there's only certain information they're allowed to give us. They give us, names, dates, births, deaths, who they were married to, things like that. And so my intent is at sometime in the future to actually start showing that information in Family Tree. So you'll see like a membership source or something, and you can click it, and we'll show you that data. And what I'll have to think about is what exactly we get, and if what we show is different. I mean, you don't need to see the ordinances, because if you're a member, those ordinances are already showing on the person page.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be names, dates, marriage stuff, and who they married and their kids, maybe. Okay. So, but I'll go ask about the whether the microfilm of the membership records will ever be available online.
Okay.
All right. Well, sorry that this doesn't feel like it's good, and I'm sorry, because normally when we have lots of questions, we try to spend at least an hour or so to do this, sometimes an hour and a half. But I need to run, go visit my mom down at the hospital. She's in ICU. So I told her I would come visit her today. And if I usually go past, about 8:30 to 8:45, she's like falling asleep. So I need to run out down there and visit with her. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for your forgiveness on this. Keep asking your questions.
We will get to them.
Keep posting, and we're going to get to them all. Next time we may... we'll do a little better. Now we know what to do. We'll use your computer.
We'll just use my computer from the get-go.
Yeah,
just forget his stuff.
And we'll get it right. I think my stuff was working. It just was on the wrong page.
Yeah, probably.
So we'll get it figured out better, and maybe we'll extend the time a little bit next time to sort of make up for this one.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much. Have a good evening, and enjoy the solar eclipse. We even talked about that in the first half.
We did. We really
enjoy
did.
the solar eclipse on Monday if you're in the United States. Or at least in in the United States. I don't know where other part of the world, because they don't show that on TV for us. Just that.
I would imagine it's going to go across, like,
imagine some of Canada.
It looks like it comes down across the United States. Well, I guess it'd be more like.
Yeah, I don't know. Go look it up.
This can't do it. It's kind of a curve across, coming from Oregon all the way down through Kentucky.
Yeah,
kind of thing. So I imagine it goes across the whole world.
All right. Thank you very much. You're doing great work. The tree is getting better every day. I appreciate your work. I appreciate your willingness to put it in there. And stay with us. I know things aren't perfect, but stay with us. We're going to keep working at it and trying to keep it better, and encourage the change of bad data and discourage the change of good. And we're working. We're actually set together and came up with a whole list of ideas we have on how to help people not change good stuff. And we'll keep working at it, and we'll find the right combination, and it'll be a good place. But I'm hoping you're having positive experiences. I'm hoping you're meeting other people that are your relatives and creating those relationship bonds with other people in your distant family, and having joy in doing this service. Absolutely. So have a good night.
Yes, and thank you for your well wishes. We've noticed that several of you, or a bunch of you, have wished us well with my grandmother and his mom.
Yeah,
we appreciate that always.
Appreciate it.
So,
have a good evening. We'll see you next time.